Let's get it. This is Life's Essential Ingredients with Jeff and a Mike, where we hope to inform, inspire, and transform lives, one essential ingredient at a time. Welcome to the show. Listeners, I'm going to start out just like that because he's back, baby. My Pasho, the Mike, his work has changed the schedule on him a little bit. And so I missed him, been recording these last few without him. And it's just so different. So welcome back, my Pasho. I am hyped that you're here.
Good to be back. It's been a long time. And before we get into it, now that I can see you face to face, I can wish you a happy birthday, old timer.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday was Jeff's birthday, and he is old. Woo!
Uh, Listeners, yeah, if you're new, Mike and I have been best friends since we were 18, college roommates at USF, trying to play hoop out there, and just have had just the best relationship since that time. But this nonprofit, it's part of or this podcast is part of our nonprofit called C4 Leaders, and we use the pizza making process to create space for our companions to be seen, heard, and loved. We write children's books, and then we use the most amazing handmade, hand-tossed sourdough pizza to bring out the best in each other. So if you're interested in checking us out in that space, just go to pizzadays.org. Somehow, Pasho, we are season 5, episode 13. We have Bern Mendez coming from Austin, Texas. And listeners, I'm telling you right now, in our intro, it says inform, inspire, and transform. That's what Bern has been doing the last 30 years. No joke. Get out your notepad because this is going to be an incredible episode. The best place to find Bern is just through his website. And he's got a great site, lots of good information, a cool quiz that you can take, which he'll get into later on. But just go to bernmendez.com, and it's BERNMENDEZ.com. So about our guest, for over 30 years, Bern Mendez has been on a path dedicated to helping others. Bern's journey into coaching began at one of the lowest points of his life. He was struggling with depression until a mentor stepped in and guided him out of the darkness. Experiencing such a profound shift, especially after nothing else had worked, ignited something deep and lasting within Bern. In that moment, he knew he had to devote his life to helping others experience the same freedom. Bern had no idea his path would lead specifically into relationship and intimacy coaching. For the past 14 years, Bern's expertise has been focused on helping smart women to attract conscious, devotionally committed partners in record time by guiding them to become the most radiant, authentic, and emotionally grounded version of themselves. That's what I'm talking about, listeners. That's powerful. Bern has been featured on CNN, Univision, Shine, HuffPost Live, and his YouTube videos have been seen by more than 30 million people. Bern, thanks for sharing your many gifts with the world, for helping thousands of people find love, and for being our guest on Life's Essential Ingredients. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Jeff and Mike. I'm super excited to be here. And I really resonate with your mission. I love the whole Pizza Day initiative and being able to work ingredients that are a metaphor for life. I think it's such a beautiful thing what you guys are doing. So I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a lot of fun, and it's our honor to do that work. But today, this is all about you. And so excited because I do think there's going to be some really cool metaphors that come out of what you do and help people, and kind of what we do. And I think just blending all that. And then one thing that you probably are not aware of, Mike and I, we told you we played basketball. We've been basketball coaches for 25 plus years.
Wow.
So I just within what you do, and I'll use the word, I don't want to get everybody confused out of the jump, but just fundamentals. I think when you look at what does it take to be a great basketball player, you got to have the fundamentals that give you that groundedness to then use your gifts that you've been given as far as your athleticism and everything else that goes on with it. But without the fundamentals, it's just hard to really achieve the greatness that's inside you. And after researching you, for sure, I see that's what you help people, really establish is their fundamentals of life as just who they are as a being, and then okay, how do I now get in this game, this relationship of sharing my fundamentals and hopefully finding and attracting their partner that has some fundamentals as well. And that's what's going to be interesting. I think there's a big gap, right now, not to sound sexist, but on the male side, just a little bit behind with things as far as that. And so I think it's going to be great this episode, but I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm pretty fired up about it. But Bern, we always start with a thought of the day.
Okay.
Quote that I picked after researching you. And again, I can pick, I don't know how many millions or trillions of quotes that are out there, but this is the one that I picked for you. Helping one person might not change the whole world, but it could change the world for one person. Why would I pick that one for you?
Well, it's a beautiful quote.
It's anonymous. It's anonymous.
Okay. Here's the thing. In my experience and it really is a blessing to having had thousands of conversations with human beings who need help, and having had the privilege of guiding them in some way to get to the other side of whatever challenge they were facing. And in my line of work, it has to do with loving themselves more fiercely so that they are more open to loving someone else. It's that thing of someone's, I like to talk about it this way. One of the things that keeps me going, because having a business it's a fun thing. It's also a very challenging thing. Is there's a moment when you help someone and you can see the light literally coming back into their eyes, where they thought they couldn't do it, and finally they remember who they are. And I think this quote talks about that. It's like helping someone, and it's not. I don't have the grandiosity to think I'm doing it, because I really come from a standpoint that I'm a guide and a pass-through of something that's maybe needs to happen for that human being. It's just so gratifying to be able to see them go back into their life, into their community, into their world, and impact everyone around them, not based on something they're teaching or preaching about, but based on who they are, based on maybe a more open heart or maybe a more connected way of being. So I think it's a powerful thing, helping someone to shift perspective, and through the shifting of perspective, impact their family and everyone around them.
Yeah, which is, so you're saying that quote resonated with you then, and we're still
yes.
Yeah. And yeah, you have such a beautiful smile. So listeners, if you're just listening to this episode, get onto the YouTube and check it out. And it's
Thank you.
at C4 Leaders 707 is our YouTube, which we don't normally even put out there a whole bunch. We're terrible with like marketing and stuff. I'm weird that way. I just say, hey, people are going to find us when they're supposed to find us. But anyways, this is going to be a great episode. And I love already what you're saying, loving themselves more fiercely.
Yeah.
I guess before we even get into the show, why is that, in all your years of experience? Why is that? I mean, that's one of the first things that you just shared. Why is that like just something that's so important, and something that you've noticed that has been difficult for us? And I totally agree. I struggle with that myself at times. And I think it's that roller coaster of life.
Yeah.
Can we catch ourselves when we're in that space, and what is our response, and how quickly can we get out of that? To realize that we have everything we need inside us. And let me just keep taking steps towards that. But let me get you back to answering that question.
The reason why I've experienced, it's not just even a belief, I've seen it be true for many human beings, and I include myself in this category, is because everything stems from that. I think that we live in a world, there's so many shiny objects right now, especially with social media and with YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and whatever the next thing might be, that may, by the time that somebody listens to this, might already be the new number one thing. There's so much confusion out there. But I think you were talking about earlier about the fundamentals. When you were talking about the fundamentals, the two images came to mind. One was the image of Coach John Wooden, somebody who's maybe even controversial because of how fundamentally his mindset was, not shining, just talking about things that were so mindset oriented, and so that was one of them. The other one was a very classic nostalgic image of Mr. Miyagi, teaching Daniel San to wax on, wax off, and fierce love is one of those basics. And fierce love is one of those things that A is the foundation of who we are. It's the only reason we're here. Like if you think about it, at the end of the day, success, no success, anything you can think about, the only thing you take with you is the love you experienced and expressed. That's it. So it's very hard for a human being to give a lot of love without burning out if they don't have that amount of self-love within. And so I think the cultivation of that fierce self-love, of having an idea or in practice that is very compassionate and also very imperfect, of what it means to be a human being who steps into life with that humble imperfection, but also that recognition of the divinity inside of them in some way, is so powerful. Because then from that place, you can act more lovingly, you can act more compassionately, you can learn to set boundaries if you need to. And for example, I coach, when I coach women, many women, it's not an exclusive problem to women, but many women that I coach find it really hard to love themselves in practice. They've learned to sacrifice, to maybe put their family first, their children first, their coworkers first. So when it comes time to prioritizing their own self-interests, it's hard. And an easy way, because I want to make this as practical as possible instead of just being ethereal, is that a practical way, I ask them to take out a picture of themselves at a very vulnerable age. Maybe they were, I don't know, 5, 6, whenever they feel they needed the most love and maybe didn't get it as often as or as deeply as they wanted to, and develop a relationship with that child. And when they won't, because I mean, anyone who's listening to this who has children understands the concept of, I would give my life for my kids, no questions asked, in a split second. I mean, like and sometimes when it comes down to me, there's things that I don't do for myself. But if you develop a relationship with that vision of that child as if it were your own child that you need to take care of, you'll do things for that child, meaning you, that you would never do just for yourself, adult. So cultivating that relationship sometimes allows that, not intellectual, but visceral degree of fierce love that we're talking about, because it's something that's innate, it's something that's instinctual, it's something that allows you to not have to think about it too much. It's just a thing to do when you love someone so deeply.
Man, that's what I'm talking about. Just so you know, I'm not on my phone. I'm taking notes. Yeah, Mike and I started this, we're in our 5th season. But we're like, hey, let's just try and help one person. And for sure that one person has been me or Mike. And we've just learned so much. But yeah, I mean, man, you just said so much. And I will go back real quick to John Wooden. You're probably aware of this, but every season, he would start practice and start the season with teaching his players how to put their socks and how to tie.
Yes.
And when you really think about that, I mean, it's kind of everything. And I'm getting goosebumps even thinking about that. It's like, wait a second, come on now. But then if your feet get blisters, you're not playing. You know, if you're not taking care of the fundamentals, it doesn't allow you to go on and do all these other things. And it ties in, to your self-love, self-efficacy. What do we do for ourselves? Can we slow life down enough to be like, hey, what are those essential things that I need for me in order to be there for, in this case, in Coach Wooden, for his teammates? Just powerful. But let's get into you a little bit. I like this question because it's just an open-ended kind of, you take it any which way. But what was life like growing up?
Life growing up was, I would say, fun and challenging at the same time. And I say fun because I was born and raised in Mexico City. And for anyone who hasn't been there, it's a really interesting space. It has a lot of culture, a lot of art, a lot of music, a lot of pollution, a lot of traffic, a lot of corruption. So it's a clash of the best and the most challenging aspects of life as I've known it so far. But it was a beautiful thing in the sense of I mean, I'm not sure how to express it. It- this is maybe happening more and more in the United States than it used to, than when I first moved in. But the disparity between people who have and people who don't have is great. It's very marked in a city like Mexico. I was fortunate enough to be in a house of parents who were in a pretty decent position in life. So I was given lots of good things. I mean, from an amazing education to learning English when I was 3 years of age, to I mean, lots of cool things. A grandfather who was a composer, orchestra director. I mean, sensitive heart. Another grandfather who was an entrepreneur and had built 30 businesses. So it was a really cool experience. And the reason why I say challenging is because, like anything in life, I think people learn through ages what to do, what not to do, and parenting was not maybe didn't have the focus that it has right now. So, and one of the areas that I focus on right now is in my neuro informed practices, emotional regulation. My dad didn't have too much of that. So when he was not really regulated, one of the ways he would take it out on, I mean, was really getting upset. But every now and then, like, I would get some beatings. So that part of life was challenging. And also, I'm not dissing my dad in any way. He was an incredible father to this day. I mean, he's not alive anymore, but he's my hero. But that part of life was really challenging. So that was the beginning of a journey that would I would basically recognize at 17, that the first time that I fully recognized the impact of that in my life. But I can't complain. I had lots of good friends. I got a chance to, when I was 11 years of age, have a camp experience in Norway and meet friends from all over the world. To this day, it's one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. So it was overall an incredible experience mixed in with some challenges.
Uh, yeah. Yeah, I've been to Mexico a bunch and love it, but never been to Mexico City.
It's a great place. I recommend it. Not for living, but for being there
Yeah,
every now and
I
then.
know. One day we'll get there. But yeah, definitely. My wife was born her, but her parents are from Mexico, Durango and Guadalajara. Uh,
Oh, great.
my youngest daughter lived in Campeche,
Okay.
no, down in the Gulf. She lived there for a year. Did an
Wow.
exchange program, so pretty familiar with the culture and definitely understand the lack of emotional kind of regulation.
Yeah.
Not to stereotype, but definitely my father-in-law, who's in his 80s, still see that,
Mhm.
that part of him. And yeah, definitely, I think my wife was in that same space as you, of not necessarily getting ingredients that she needed growing up from that male figure. But it allows us to kind of seek the things that we know that we need, and just
Mhm.
you to take action towards, okay, maybe I didn't like that. And this is what's fun within what we do when we're working with groups. What are those ingredients, those toppings that have been on your pizza? And do you even have you had time to slow down enough to think about what those are, and how the heck did they get there? And something that in this case, your dad, my wife's dad, uh, put on there. And you know what? Yeah, I never realized, but I don't like the taste of that. And I'm going to take action now towards, you know, getting that out of my life, off of my life recipe, and choose a different topping, so to say. And sometimes it's fun to see people, like you were talking about, that light coming on of, like, we don't need to have that anymore in our life, and then helping them learn how to take action towards, removing it. But really cool. But let's get into the show is called Life's Essential Ingredients. You're supporting people each and every day, and doing a lot of great work. So the question kind of is, how do you do that? And what are those ingredients that you need to have in your life that allow you to, we've been talking about self-love, but allow you to love yourself, so then you can get out and serve, the people that are counting on you to coach them up.
It's a great question. I think it starts for me in doing something I deeply love every single day, because I think it's doing something, anything. for many hours a day and for many years on end is very challenging, regardless of how much you appreciate something or not. But I think if you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. There's aspects of it that feel more like work than others, but the actual work feels like joy. So that's the first ingredient that I need. And I made that as a conscious choice. Also having the experience of a dad who really gave a lot to his family to support us and to be a great breadwinner and to give us the best, even when he really couldn't, he still stretched himself. And he did it through something that was not necessarily a thing he enjoyed doing. So I saw the impact of that in someone's life, and I promised myself when he died that I was going to change that, because almost like he suffered unconsciously so I could have more opportunities, and I'm not going to pass that on to my children. So the other day, I was having a conversation with my 19-year-old, and he was talking about loving what I do. And I could see the excitement on his face, and I felt really grateful that he gets a chance to see me, even though there's challenges, doing something I really enjoy. So that's the first ingredient. Second ingredient, I think, would be to understand myself and know what my assets are, and also understand my challenges. And for me, from that early age of 17, I've been very aware that there's things I need to have in place in my life so my brain doesn't go towards depression. I mean, it's just like, and I hope it changes one day, but if it doesn't, I have measurements to counterbalance that. So it starts with a very strong morning ritual that is for me a non-negotiable. And I've had periods of life where I have more or less than that. I would say for the last 4 or 5 years, it's been really strong. And again, I'm not claiming that everybody needs this, because people are very different. Some people can start working at their laptop and have a very productive and happy day. If I just wake up and look at my laptop and start working, I'll get depressed. So for me, it starts with a longer than most people's ritual where I get a chance to breathe, and really conscious breathe. I get a chance to go to nature. I spend at least an hour in nature every morning hiking. And then more recently, and again, this is something that I'm not advocating for everyone. It works for me, but it doesn't work for everyone. I have a cold plunge where I get a chance to feel energized, and also that's an activating moment. But after that, there's an inner peace that takes place that's really profound for me. So having those rituals, checking in with myself throughout the day to, again, regulate my nervous system, which is something that I'm getting better and better at doing, because that's something I'm advocating for in my clients' work. That would be another element of it. And then something else that's, I guess, for me, equally important is having really exciting goals that make the minutia of the problems I'm facing less relevant than if I don't have them. And I often talk to this with my clients. I mean, somebody would show up and they're not getting the relationship they want, and it's been years, they're feeling burnout. And when I ask them the question, what are you looking for? They come up with a list of what they don't want or what they think they can get. And no one's excited. And I give the example of if you want to work towards having a negative edge pool in your backyard that has a beautiful view overlooking the mountains or the ocean, it's very challenging and very expensive, but you'll do a lot to get that because it's something that's juicy enough. If somebody says, hey, I'm going to give you a tub in your backyard that's basically broken and full of plants, that's not exciting enough. It's cheaper and it's easier to get, but it's not exciting enough for you to do something about it. So having those moonshots is part of what helps someone to transcend the mundane and the challenges of the day and really go and continue, even though there's going to be challenges that show up. Another aspect of those for me is getting better at my craft. I think that there was a point in my life where I got a little comfortable, and I felt, I mean, much younger in life, I felt, oh my God, I'm so good at what I do. And I didn't know what I didn't know, but I just felt like, hey, I don't need to do this. And more, I find myself spending a lot of time humbly learning and researching and finding out new ways and new perspectives. And that aspect is so exciting for me, to learn new ways of doing things and better ways of doing things and challenging my own mindset and saying, oh, I used to say this, but now I don't believe in it anymore. It's tough. I mean, that's another element, another ingredient in my pizza that helps me to show up for myself and my clients.
I love that. And I could be dead wrong, and it's probably just me, but the older I get, the more genius I see in simplicity.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that, even though you're learning, but maybe you're becoming more efficient, maybe you're using less words to communicate, what you're trying to get across as far as the skill. You've been able to simplify it, and that I think is the key even to a great pizza, to be honest. My favorite pizza is just a simple margarita pizza
Wow.
with the olive oil base. Then you put down the basil. Then you put down, actually put down the cheese, the basil, then the cheese, and then a little bit of a red sauce around it. And there's so many other toppings that you can put on it.
Yeah.
But to me, and in life, so many times less is more.
That is absolutely true. I mean, I had an analogy that came to mind, which is not just part of food, but it's part of life. Is I got a chance for about 6 months to 8 months. I remember the time period, maybe 12 years ago, to learn from a sushi master, basically, who lived here in Austin. A Japanese guy. He was maybe 80 years of age. He had done, I mean, like sushi for, I don't know, 60 years. I mean, he was started young and incredible, man. And one of the things he shared with me is like, if you really want to know how amazing a sushi chef is, don't ask for a special 30 ingredient roll. Ask for a tuna roll, ask for a cucumber roll. Something so simple. You can see them, and I think that that's true. I think, but to translate that to my life, first thing I realized is the more I learn, the more I know I don't know anything. So that's something. So it humbles me to be less, this is the way, and more, this is one way, and maybe I'll change my mind, but it works so far, So that's one thing. The other thing, when you talk about simplicity, is yeah, I think that simplicity is hard to come by, in the sense of there's so much noise out there. But if you really look at things, like if you really have, I've been training myself as much as possible to be more meta in my thinking. So what's the essence of the essence of the essence? And that's like something that, and sometimes the brain doesn't capture it, but then the heart does. Sometimes it's in, I mean, I think it's going to come through researching, and I just go out and for a walk, and then it hits me through nature. I look at something, and two ideas come together, and it's just the simplicity of the moment captures something that allows my brain to say, okay, this is a much better way of doing things. So, but also, if you look at simplicity, is I think that in this business of helping others, the insights are very powerful. The knowledge is definitely important. The strategy matters, but who you are and what is your state of being when you help someone is probably the most important element that is unnoticed. It's like that pizza with two ingredients, Because if you have the knowledge, and I see a lot of people who have the knowledge, but you're not necessarily carrying yourself in that space, then it doesn't come across quite the same way, or you're not teaching someone a way of processing their emotions and their thoughts that is sustainable. So this is something in no way am I claiming a level of mastery, because I don't. I just find it really interesting, and a concept that if you take it to music, if you take it like sometimes a piano piece, just piano, nothing else, incredibly moving. I'm a lover of poetry, and you can have in one paragraph 5 lines that change your life. So simple, but the images are so rich so I'm an advocate for simplicity, even though I don't necessarily show it all the time.
And you just said so much with that, all of it, what you're sharing, but 5 lines that can change your life. And I think, for me, listening to that, it's really that you are just a student, and you're trying to continue to develop your craft to be the best that you can be for yourself and for the people you serve. But so your lens is just that of, taking in and making these connections, like you talked about, being on your walk out in nature, and then combining those thoughts, or seeing something that's going to empower you to take that message and make it your own, and then develop it and then share it And then, all right, let's go try it, and let's see if that's going to resonate, with this person who maybe I haven't been connecting with in the way that I would like to. But now I'm going to try a different approach to it. And that's powerful. I mean, so makes me feel so good knowing that you're helping lots of people and you're guiding them from a place of just that's so authentic and genuine and vulnerable, and our nonprofit is called C4 Leaders, and we won't get into this a whole bunch, but those are the 4 C's of how I live my life. And in listening to you, it keeps coming up and coming up is just the consistency, C, which, we mean 2 things, with that of how we define it. One is just BTA. You want to be good at anything, you got to put in consistent work. And I would call that busting that ass.
Yeah.
Not if you're willing to pay the price to be good,
Yeah.
But then on the flip side of that, it's to consistently challenge your thoughts and perspectives to the point of vulnerability. And I think when we can enter that space, we say, hey, I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes, and knowing that allows you to play free and allows you to be on your walk and make these connections, because you're not putting that pressure on yourself, and you're really then empowering yourself to be like, yeah, all right, let's go to work, and it just takes kind of pressure off yourself. I don't even know if that makes sense, but I think so many times we're putting more undue pressure on ourselves of having to have the answer, instead of knowing the answer will come if I can allow myself to give myself some grace, and consistently challenge my thoughts and perspectives.
It's also the concept of stepping into faith, which is challenging for most of us, because we love to have control over life, even though there's no such a thing as control. But the illusion of control is great. I have it all under control. So I think that, I chose this year because, and I don't do this every year, but this year I chose a word for the year, and my word is faith this year. And immediately upon choosing that word, I got like 5 challenges that really tested it. And I can't say that I've overcome them, but I'm doing better than I was at the beginning of the year. So for me, that element of being willing to have faith that whatever is supposed to happen will happen, and also that at the end of the day, what I'm going for, more than the recognition of this guy invented this, no, it's what's the result that I want. And if you find, the other day somebody was asking me about some of my favorite quotes, and one that keeps coming to mind is "Do the best you can until you know better, and then when you know better, do better" by Maya Angelou.
Yeah.
And that to me is that creates the freedom you're talking about, where I used to think this way, now I think this way, and it's okay. And it does take courage, and I'm getting better at it. I'm not saying but I'm getting better at it because. You'll make mistakes and you'll have ideas that don't work, and then coming up with a new version of things matters. One of the ways, I think earlier in life, the first strong time that I was introduced to that concept, that helped me to feel more freedom to change my mind, because I think a lot of us, when we make a decision, we invest a lot of it, and sometimes we put our identity on the mix, and then if we made a mistake, then that means I am less than, or I'm not intelligent enough. And I heard the story, I'm not sure if the details are exactly this way, but the essence probably is Gandhi was one day gathering people to have a hunger strike. And the announcement had been made. People were coming from all over the place. Some people had walked for 2 or 3 weeks to get there. And then upon, I don't know, thousands and thousands of people arriving to this location, he recognizes that there's going to be violence, and he calls the whole thing off in a split second. And people respected him, but some people got really pissed. And one person was courageous enough to say, "Hey, well, please tell me what happened. Why did you change your mind?" And his response basically has stuck to me for many years. He said, "Because only God's truth is absolute. And my commitment is to truth, not to consistency." So that concept of I want to seek truth, even if it's inconsistent with my own stance, is a powerful guiding principle for life.
I love that, seeking truth. Gotta write that one down. Hey, so again, listeners, we're on with Bern Mendez. Check him out at his site, bernmendez.com, coming from Austin, Texas. Uh, let's get in. I looked at it, but I didn't want to tell the listeners about it. But you have this 5% principle
Uh-huh.
that's on your site. Well, let's talk about that. What's that all about?
Sure. 5% principle is the idea or the concept. Because it's similar to Pareto's principle, but I find that it's even tighter than 80/20. And I'll challenge the listener to think about it this way. If it's not true in their life, 5% of people in your life at most will create the highest degree of happiness or pain. 5% of decisions, real decisions in your life, maybe the decision of who you're going to marry, the decision of will you have children or not, the decision of what do you want to do for a living. I mean, there's a handful of decisions among millions of decisions that have the biggest impact in your life. So the 5% principle for me is helping someone who's on the path of creating change in a vulnerable space that's already overwhelming. Instead of having 30 things they need to focus on, what's the 5% thing they can focus on that will be the biggest impact in their life, so that when that falls into place, other things become easier. And instead of somebody trying to convince them that these things work, you feel the impact of those things working. It's a highly leveraged action, emotionally, logistically, so that because you sense the movement taking place and because you're basing it on something that's foundational instead of superficial, you're far more likely to continue doing the work than if you start with the minutia or the shiny object or things that have a minimal impact on your life, and then you're doing 10 things and none of them are it. And finally, something clicks when you start focusing on what's the most relevant thing I could be doing right now. So I like to help people to figure out, but it's part of the conversations I have. Somebody will come to me and they'll talk about a lot of symptoms as though they are problems. And the 5% principle would be, well, what's the root cause? Let's focus on the root cause. Because if we focus on that, then the principles the symptoms tend to go away, and you start experiencing a lot more of what you want and a lot less of what you don't want.
Of that. And I forget the numbers, but James Clear with Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
I know it's been forever since I read that book, but he's awesome. And I think he was talking something about, creating change, kind of what you're talking about now. If you do even like, try and implement 3 changes, the odds of you being successful in those are like way down, like 6%. You do 2, they go up like to 30. You do 1,
Yeah.
kind of what you're talking about. You have a high percentage of actually achieving that, and we haven't necessarily been talking about confidence like a crazy amount. We've been talking about self-love, but I'll put that into there. I mean, it goes, I love this 5% because at the end of the day, it's about how can we work on our confidence to be able to take these steps, in your case, towards putting yourself out there to try and have a relationship with somebody when it's like, I don't know, am I doing all, can I walk in with my chest out, my head held high, and these thoughts going, through my head that I'm worthy of what it is that I'm seeking.
Mhm.
And I guess that would be somewhat of my next question. How do you, in a action-packed way, help your client who might be struggling with their confidence, which I'm guessing some of them are, why they come to you, but how do you help them through that space?
It's an interesting process because in my experience, uh, there's things that are even deeper than confidence. I mean, for example, if you have a lot of self-worth, and confidence is a side effect, basically having self-worth. So I do the best I can to focus on self-worth. Not that confidence is not important, because we do focus on confidence, but once you take care of the first ring, then confidence more naturally emerges. One of the ideas or the principles that I live by and have seen work is that there are multiple versions of a human being. And when I'm helping a woman feel more self-worthy or feel more confident as a result of that self-worth, uh, there's ways of being, acting, breathing, and moving that can significantly enhance the feeling of confidence or diminish it. It's almost like the chicken and the egg. You can wait to feel more confident to move confidently, or you can move confidently and feel more confidence. So I'm a big proponent of emotional states and the sustainability of those emotional states being the foundation of creating change in a way that is sustainable and long lasting. My first mentor shared this with me, and in some ways, I still think it's very valuable. He said, "Show me your state, and I will show you your future." And what he was referring to is that if you come from an emotional state of optimism and emotional regulation and gratitude and maybe joy, you will accomplish entirely different things than if you come from a place of cynicism and pain and lack. So, part of this work is how do we help someone to shift that vibration, for lack of a better term, right now, so that from that elevation, they're far more likely to feel the confidence and the self worth that they need to in order to take action. And I'm not saying that techniques are not important because they are, but you can have the best techniques in the world. If you're coming from a place of sadness, it's going to be very unlikely that you're going to be able to execute them. So much like in exercise and basketball, attitude is a lot. And attitude is something that is not just you were born with a great attitude or weren't. And that's part of what the process of understanding the brain is how do you help someone to develop habits and rituals that facilitate the process of not having to climb Everest with no Sherpa, no backpack, or 3 backpacks and no oxygen. I mean, it's hard already to do it with having those things. So the more you regulate your nervous system, the easier the climb is. The more you're able to listen to your self-talk and not buy into ideas that are not true but feel true, the easier it is. The more you're able to have consciously create rules for what does it take for you to experience certain emotions, long-lasting ones, the easier it is to not be at the mercy of just I'm angry. You're not angry, you're experiencing anger. And why is it happening? And how do we use it instead of just pushing it away? But also, how do we move through it? So that type of granular level of emotional regulation and understanding of human experience helps me inform, and it's different for each person in terms of the minutia, but it's high level, it's very similar. The pattern is similar. When somebody shows up and they've had maybe a bunch of failed relationships, not my word, their words, I failed in relationships before and I need to feel more confident. Well, let's figure out how we get you to feel more joy right now in your life. Let's do a few challenges that help you not intellectually, but viscerally get that you have some value. And then when you come from that place, then let's go out and create connection. So I never have someone show up and say, hey, go out and start dating. I think we need to take a step back, pause the dating apps, work on certain aspects of understanding and being so that when they do go out and put themselves out there, there's a different version of them. It's them in essence, but it's a different version of them that's going out into the world that's far more likely to get better results than the previous version of them.
I love it.
Bern, I've got a question for you, for
Sure.
the listeners out there. And this is all just very enlightening to me. And I know you work with women. How would a woman listen to this show right now? How do they know that they need someone like you in their life to help them? What is a sign that they could say to themselves, like, hey, I need someone to coach me through all this?
Okay. And by the way, it's not that all of them would need a coach. Some people might need therapy, and there's a difference between both. But I'll say somebody somebody who might need a coach, or in this case, me to help them figure out how to get what they want much more quickly is ask yourself, how long has it been since you've been at this relationship thing without getting the result you want? And I heard somebody, and it might be a small number, but the way this guy was saying is and he was talking about himself, but I can put it out there for more people. I mean, I definitely find it valuable. If I'm experiencing a problem for longer than 3 months, I realized that I value my comfort more than figuring out how to solve it. Now, that's not necessarily accurate for everyone because not everybody has resources, because people are experiencing different degrees of pain. But if somebody's doing well in life, somebody has the ability to do certain things, go on trips, drives a nice car, then if you've been at this for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10, I mean, like that's a sign that perhaps there's something you're not seeing. And one of the things that I love helping my clients do is eliminate, let's say, 10 years of BS and trial and error. I mean, there's two ways of doing things in life: rediscovering fire, and it could work, or fire right now has been discovered a few millennia ago. How do we use what we know and improve upon it? So I would say if you catch yourself maybe in relationships that are not fulfilling, but you don't know how to get yourself to not experience those, that might be a sign. If you've been at the dating app thing and you feel this is overwhelming and burnout and they don't work, so I have to step out of them. It's not that they don't work, but they don't work for most people because there's multiple ways of just, for many reasons, but there's a way to do them that they work. Maybe you are in a situationship, you're with someone who is really exciting and fun. You want real commitment and he doesn't. And it's been a while and you're afraid of speaking up because you know if you do, then he's going to go away. Then that might be a sign. Or maybe where you just know there's more for you out there, but you don't have any idea how to, because maybe you got divorced and the world was different when you were married, and now you woke up one day in a world of apps and social media and things seem to be different, and now there's the manosphere out there, which is very challenging for many reasons. So if you find yourself in this overwhelming sense of I don't even know where to start, and you want some guidance and help so that you don't have to do this thing alone, and where you actually have a shot of getting what you want, that might be a sign. I've been doing some research, and I'm getting ready to publish it maybe a month or two before I do, but because I want to not just theoretically or empirically through my clients understand more. I mean, I have some idea of what was going on. That's why I started the research, but I didn't have as many data points as I now have, which overwhelmingly show me, no question, this is not a matter of opinion, that a woman in midlife has the decks stacked against her in terms of going out. And we're talking starting from, I'll give you one stat and there's like 30 more that are challenging. If you're a single woman in the ages of 40 to 64 in the US, and you could be in the US, you could be in Canada, you could be in Germany, you could be in Japan, in Korea, and you have a certain income, I mean, you're college educated and have a comfortable income, there are 10 women for 6 men in that age, right? Just that one. I mean, so if you on top of that stack up the other challenges, the divorce pool, like men tend to remarry faster. So if you're saying, well, there's going to be people who get divorced, men who get divorced, yeah, but they're going to marry faster sometimes than women, so they're not going to trickle down as much. Some people don't use apps, so that means if you're not putting yourself out there in real life, that you're going to miss out on them. I mean, there's a bunch of statistics there. There's statistics in terms of what apps do. And if you're not sure how to use them or regulate yourself powerfully, then if you look at the apps, and apps themselves are not just the challenge. There's several factors within the app framework. There's a concept in psychology and neuroscience that is intermittent reinforcement, which means if you get what you want sometimes, but not others, I mean, I'm paraphrasing greatly, then you're far more likely to get addicted to that person or thing. So an app, what does an app do? You get maybe the love of your life one day, but you may get a dirty message the other day. So it's a inconsistent. So if you're not using apps in a way that is just a specific number of times a day and regulating, then you'll feel overwhelmed and you think they don't work, and then you put yourself out of them, and then you may not get there's people that you will never connect with in real life if you didn't use them. But on top of that, I mean, Jeff alluded to this at the beginning a little bit. The third aspect of why this is more challenging for women is there is a serious crisis in the world of men right now. We're talking about education, we're talking about mental health, we're talking about the disparity between people who go to therapy, women versus men. We're talking about for the first, since this has been recorded, this is the one of the strongest periods of time where most men don't have close friendships with other men in the way they used to. So there's many different factors. Now, if we layer on top of that the challenging legacy of patriarchy and slight mixed in with misogyny and other things, then it becomes challenging. And then on top of that, like those are three layers. The fourth layer of why this is challenging, and this is both men and women, is because we've never had so much ambition in terms of what we're seeking in a relationship, but relative to the skills that we have to go get it. I think that one of the reasons why many of my clients feel sometimes a little bit embarrassed to ask for help is because we live in an age where even though we seek the most we've ever sought in a relationship, and this is not me talking, there's many experts who, Eli Finkel, Esther Perel, who talk about this concept. We've never wanted so much, but had fewer skills to go get it. So I think if you've been sold the idea that love is the most natural thing in the world, and I agree that love is natural, but the loving relationships we want are not. They've never happened in human history. So if you think that I'm not getting them, there's something wrong with me, I'm not going to go get help. So that's a challenge. So when you get all those things put together, I mean, unless you have a very contrarian strategy of getting there, it's a recipe for a lot of pain and taking a lot longer. Now, I'm not saying I'm the only person who does this. I happen to be someone who's very thoughtful about this and who's really taking the challenge head on, not with imagination or hope, but science and data. So my whole approach of helping someone overcome this is not to say this doesn't exist, because that would be a lie, or to say this is never going to work, but it's for those challenges, what are the countering mechanisms we need to put in place so despite all the stuff that's against you, you can still get what you want. And that's been the focus that I've had for 14 years. How do I help my clients who are incredible women, who are very smart, successful, who haven't had the relationship they want maybe ever, to finally get it? And I'm not just talking they have a boyfriend, they got married, they've been married for 7, 10 years, at this point. And that's something that takes place when you really look at what's really challenging and then find specific ways to counterbalancing those challenges.
Helping one person might not change the whole world, but it could change the world for one person. Man, that's got to feel good, Bern, to have your client come to you and just be struggling, and to listen to them, help them regulate their emotions, help them figure out exactly what it is that they're seeking, help them, have enhance their self-worth, and then to be able to go take action and find that person. I mean, I guess I kept writing. I'm on my 4th page of notes here, but I put down where I wanted to go next was sticking with this fundamentals a little bit. Fundamentals of a relationship. Perhaps people haven't had a healthy relationship, so they don't quite know the ingredients of what are those fundamentals, what are those ingredients, of a healthy relationship, and I guess I'll just leave it at that. What are those, that you guide your clients through and help them enhance in their life?
A great question. I think that it starts with the understanding of the level of intimacy you're seeking with someone. And I say that because if you're not fully aware of what it is that you're seeking, then you'll go out and connect with lots of people that don't give you what you want. You're not even sure why it's not happening, but it's not happening. So having a clear idea of what's the level of intimacy you seek, and I'm not just talking emotionally, but also in terms of what do you really want in a relationship? What's most important to you? What are the characteristics or traits that really matter? So that's, I would say, compatibility in values. And compatibility in values doesn't mean all values or all things, but there's things that are really important that if you don't agree with the person that you're with, and they're really foundational to who you are, there's going to be challenges consistently. So figuring out what are the most important elements in terms of values, and what are the elements that are not essential, but maybe nice to haves, Because I think, again, because we live in a world where you think you have millions of options by opening an app, then you get the false idea you get to design a menu of 50 toppings on your pizza and you can have them all. And that could not be further from the truth, you know? On the research I've been doing right now, because one of the things I help my clients is, okay, when you're going to go create a connection with someone, if the challenge is vast, and it is, and you have a long laundry list that you've never really fully evaluated, and you treat all things as non-negotiables, then it's unlikely you'll get what you want. I'll give you an example. And maybe you're the anomaly in this case because you're super tall, but many women come to me and say, I want a guy who's tall. I only like tall men. And if the criteria is 6'2", for example, with that one wish of a 6'2" guy, you eliminate 93% of men in the country. And you still have 15 more items on your list. So the mathematical probability of getting what you want becomes slightly impossible at that point. So the thing I help them do is figure out what's really essential. I mean, maybe height is less important than loyalty, or less important than kindness and empathy. So let's focus on what's really essential. Let's open up some of the other traits, to see if you're flexible on them. So I would say, going back to the theme of ingredients for relationship, I'd say compatibility and shared values would be really important. I think I enter this as an element of importance because most people are not aware of it, therefore don't do it, which is self-regulation. Without self-regulation, there is no success for a relationship, period. You can have a relationship where you tolerate each other, but it's going to end up being a painful situation by and large. And now, having said that, there's also this concept of co-regulation, which is you're not here just to be an alone human being. So how do you do that in a way that's healthy and sustainable with somebody else? Communication is such a broad cliche thing, but I'll be more specific. The ability to express what you want in a way that is respectful of the other person's integrity, and the ability to ask for what you want with kindness and firmness, both. That's a concept that therapist Terry Real, which is a really intelligent man who's done lots of important work in the field, talks about. He talks about having kindness and firmness as two essential ingredients. For example, you can ask for what you want as a complaint or as a request. You never do this. You never clean things. Why don't you do it? Again, you're asking for something indirectly, but it's really painful and it's going to elicit defensiveness in the other person, right? Or you can say, hey, I know it's not your thing, but I really would appreciate if you were to do this. Would you mind for me doing it? The person might still say no, but you have so much more likelihood of somebody doing it if you say it that way. So that would be another aspect of it. Communication in a way that's healthy. Setting boundaries, again, with firmness and kindness. There's the draw the line and you must never. Or there's the, hey, this doesn't really work for me. How can we work it out so that we both get what we need, There's also the ability to never think that you know the person fully. Like to be curious enough to continue having conversations with open-ended questions that allow you to really understand the world of someone, perhaps in a way that you hadn't before. Because most of my work is with single women, but every now and then I get somebody who's in a relationship, and it's in challenge. I'm working with a client right now who came to me, and this is maybe 3 months ago. Her marriage in her mind was over. Like there's no way out. And this is 3 months in, and she's never been happier in her relationship. Now, there's still challenges. We're working through some of those things, but part of the whole thing is, how are you talking to each other? What are your assumptions about the other person? There's various ways of slicing this, but I think those would be important. And I think that having the capacity to hold space for differences, even though you may not agree with those differences, but still not, there's a fine artful balance of stating your point of view and understanding somebody else's. Like the studies that John Gottman has done and his work partner show that the most successful couples, the ones that have, they did longitudinal studies of 20 years, from 20 to 40, 40 to 60, 60 to 80. And what they found out is that the most successful couples have at least 10 irreconcilable differences. So, that might seem like a big number, but things that people will never agree on. Now, the way it works is A, those 10 things are not that are deal breakers, like true deal breakers for them. And B, they're able to compassionately and kindly understand the differences and not have to be right about the whole thing. There's ways of expressing that. Terry Real talks about this. I mean, he has like a few losing strategies, and one of them, which we all tend every now and then to step into, is being right. Being right might feel good, but it's you can be right or you can have a happy relationship. Which one do you want? You know. So those would be some ideas that come to mind in terms of something that allows a relationship to flourish. There's more, obviously, but those are elements that are really important to focus on if you want something that stands the test of time.
Yeah, that's like a 10-hour episode right there, with everything that you just shared. Because again, it's simple, but it's just not, and I think it just goes back to one of the things you said kind of early on about just self-worth. I think in order to do all those things, you really got to know who you are, and the more you know who you are, the more you can be curious about what your partner is sharing. The more you can come. I wrote Groundhog Day. You ever see that movie?
Yeah, for sure.
And
Many times.
and just can you just wake up and just be humble and curious about what's going to unfold today, and to be there and be that kindergartner for your partner, of just excited about what's going on, and not
Yeah.
be in the same mode all the time. One of the things that we didn't talk about, I don't think, but I'm sure it's just been overwhelming with everything that we've been talking about, is just how to listen. And that is, you talk about an essential ingredient, a fundamental skill, the ability to just listen, and how do you help your clients, and I know you're huge into all the neuroscience, and how our amygdala is just kind of driving a lot of our thoughts and actions, unfortunately, because we're not able to just sit and listen, and you're a big reader, and I'm sure you probably read Nancy Klein's book, The Promise That Changes Everything. I don't know if you've read that one or not.
I haven't read it, no.
Yeah, it's a fascinating book, and I would suggest it for you. But we speak in, according to Nancy, we speak in about 120 to 140 words, depending on how fast you talk, a minute. But we think in about 845 words a minute, and so often we get interrupted. And so we never even know, if you think about all those words and the power that they can have towards enhancing, relationships, and then on the flip side, the power that they have of when they get interrupted, so that would be my question, is how do you help your clients, kind of, and you've talked about some of your techniques, but, how do you help them learn how to be a good listener?
There is a concept that we talk about foundational things that goes even deeper than listening, which is attunement, which is the art and science of being finely tuned in to your sensations, your nervous system, really somatically, not intellectually, so that you can, from that place, informed space, fine tune also to somebody else. So it goes beyond listening. It's a state of being. It's a state of resonance. And when you are in that space of resonance with yourself and with someone else, that's where mirror neurons are jiving and having a party. And that's where somebody gets to feel truly, fully seen and felt, because it's a quality of presence, but there's things underlying that presence and that listening that have to do, again, I mean, with that, it's a cultivating skill. It's not something, and again, I'm not claiming to be a superstar in this. It's something that I'm more and more interested in, because I see it as a part of the solution in terms of how we can develop a better world and a better sense of self, and also a much more powerful relationship with someone else. But I'd say that's part of it. Is emotional regulation is part of it, because the more regulated you are, the more you're able to be in this space where that can happen. The analogy I give is, imagine that you're listening to a radio station and you just hear that hissing noise, and then you fine tune that dial to where you can hear a crystal signal. That's the concept that I'm talking about. You do that first with yourself, and there's practices from mindfulness to meditation to Dan Siegel has an entire wheel that allows you to do that, to then practicing when you're doing that with yourself, with someone else. So it's something more. Uh, it's a practice that involves several practices, but it's incredibly important. I mean, I have a 3-day event in a week from now that is 3 full days of someone who's an expert in listening, just in learning how to listen. So I'm excited to do that. I mean, I consider myself a good listener, and I can definitely be better. So I'm going to do that. But I think that's one of the cool things of being in this type of work. You have the perfect excuse to continue learning things that make your life better and somebody else's life better. And that's part of the thing that I ask anyone who's listening to us right now, who's seeking help. And again, not as, because I'm not for everyone, but find a human being who's constantly looking out for what's working and what's changing, and that's in love with the prospect of finding solutions that are real. And for those who are listening right now, who are maybe married or in a relationship, and who find the same thing, I'll give a not ask question that maybe needs a question, is how do you know that you need help? In this case, maybe relationship therapy is, there's problems that you've been facing that have never been solved, and you're not getting any better at it. And you've gone at it maybe 5, 10, 20 times or years, might be a sign that, with not because your marriage is about to end, but proactively doing this, like, because so much is possible, we tend to think that it's just going to happen naturally, but you cannot have, in my view, an amazing relationship of the kind that lasts 20, 30, 40, 50 years this day and age, that really evolves into emotional, physical, spiritual, sexual intimacy, just winging it. I think that there's enough out there that's going to make this challenging. So I need, if it's not therapy, then there's podcasts, there's books, but getting together to learn more about this proactively, I think it's one of the cool things, because certain interventions can make a giant difference in somebody's ability to have a fulfilling relationship versus not. And if you don't know about them, you might spend your entire life in pain unnecessarily. So maybe those who are listening here, whether you're single or in a relationship, there's help out there for your specific situation. And there's nothing shameful about asking for help. It requires a lot of courage. And it might save you from years of going through fire rediscovery, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Again, listeners, bernmendez.com, reach out to him. Again, I'm just a huge fan, Bern. This is what's so fun for me is I know nothing about you, a few days ago. And then I research you, and then I listen to you now, and I was like, all right, this guy's just on top of his game, and he's just hungry. He's hungry for knowledge and hungry to share his knowledge with the people that he's serving. And for me, yeah, that's somebody that I would want to surround myself with and to go to for guidance, because you don't have all the answers, and you are a student of the game in researching it and finding out what does work, what doesn't work, and having the humility to say, you know what, this is what the evidence-based practice showed me, 5, 10, 15 years ago. But now there's a different way of doing it, and you're not aware, but I'm a nurse of 33 years.
Oh, wow.
What I did for a profession. I'm retired now and just do this stuff. But yeah, I love everything that you stand for, and I keep writing it down, but and then we'll move on here. But just emotional regulation, you've mentioned that again and again and again and again and again. And love how you start your day getting out in nature and breathing and cold plunging, all of which is tapping into your nervous system to allow you to regulate your emotions. And if you don't take anything else, from this episode, man, that to me is the essential ingredient that allows you, in this case, to really be your best self and enter that space where you can then, help your clients reach and achieve their dreams as far as a healthy relationship. But let's get in. I listened to you on another podcast, and you talked about the word radiance.
Mhm.
Let's talk about that, and perhaps how a listener can take a step towards developing that.
The concept of radiance, in my experience of working with so many awesome women, I have a line that says, radiance beats beauty 10 times out of 10. And the reason why I say that is because you can connect with someone, or you can find someone, for those who are single listening to this, and they have this fear that men only want the women who are the most beautiful, model looking type, and youngest, which is not true. I mean, that if you don't look a certain way, then you don't have any chances. And you could see people interact with each other, and you can have someone that's by the book very beautiful, but not expressing herself in certain ways, and someone who's not maybe by definition of what society would call a model, but have so much light coming out in her expression, and that creates far more resonance with the people that she can connect with. So tapping into radiance for me is doing what you need to do so that you can really fall in love with your life, and then as a natural byproduct of falling in love with your life, then go out and meet the world and stand out more. Like, one of the principles that I go by, and this is something, again, I don't talk about it to sound negative, but I'd rather talk about things the way they are than to try to say things don't exist, because there's so many challenges for women who are listening to this right now, from so many different angles to get what you want. If you don't stand out, you don't stand a chance. And by standing out, I'm not talking about getting a mini skirt and Botox. I'm talking about being authentically you in a way that you're not a vanilla ice cream, if that's not the core of who you are, but you're chocolate chip, or you're maybe Rocky Road, or whatever you are, that more quickly someone can identify and say hell yes to you, or hell no, but not, I don't know, maybe. So radiance is one of those forces that allows you to connect with people more authentically, and to have them, not intellectually, but at a gut level, feel, I want to connect with this human being. I want to know more about her. I want to ask for her number. I want to invite her out and do something. And if you step into this kind of life that creates more radiance, then that's the concept of standing out more that I'm talking about. If you want to get more of what you want, then it makes. And here's the thing, because sometimes I get the feedback, and it's understandable. There's no judgment. Like, you're asking me to be better for men. No, no, no. This is for you. Like, if you never met a man in your life and never got married, or never got, I mean, wouldn't your life be better if you're more radiant? Wouldn't your life be more fulfilling if you express more? Wayne Dyer, the late Wayne Dyer, talked about this line that stuck with me for all my life, which is, "Don't die with your music still in you." And this is one of those ways. Be radiant means express yourself. Don't leave anything on the table. And I think I've seen it work. I mean, one of the cool things of working with such cool women is I can have someone who maybe hasn't had any positive interaction in the context of romance with a man start doing the work, and week number 2, this hasn't happened in 10 years. Somebody stops her. She hasn't changed clothes to new clothes, or hasn't lost weight, hasn't changed her face in any way. And somebody stops her and says, "Hey, you're so beautiful." Why? Because she's expressing more radiance. So I'm a big proponent that one thing, the cultivation of that, can increase your chances exponentially. Not just getting the type of connection you want, but in life, being invited to more places, having more friends, and the whole thing.
I love it, man. I did not realize this. Again, this could be like a 10-hour episode, but listeners, bernmendez.com. Go to his website, because we're going to have to wrap this up here pretty quick, but he has some case studies on site. So check that out. I love, with what you're talking about now, and this radiance. And I don't know if this is true, but I imagine it's this snowball effect that happens by this creating the tribe that you have of this sisters in growth, from your site, of just having the power in numbers. And we're not going to get into that, but listeners, he's got all these platforms for people to build connection, and to be there for each other. And obviously he's got the knowledge and the expertise and the guidance to help you take that step for yourself. But we always end each episode, and it's funny, you You mentioned this early on, and maybe you're familiar with this quote, but John Alston has this quote that I love that we end every episode with. The only thing you take with you when you're gone is what you leave behind.
Mm.
I want to put it in context. It's, fast forward, you're a young man, and let's give you another 50 years of living, and you're on your deathbed, and you're surrounded by all the people that have been essential in your life, and you're there, and it's just a great, loving environment, and you're getting ready to take your last breath. What is it that you want to have left behind with your life's work?
Um, I wouldn't even call it life's work. If there's human beings who are experiencing love of self, and that is expressed to the love of others, I mean, that's it. Because I think that, I mean, what I want to take with me is the love that I've expressed, and the love that I've received from so many people around me. So I think that that's it. I mean, there's love, and then there's everything else. So for me, that's it. I want to take that vibration with me wherever I go. My grandfather, before he died, he was an amazing musician. He said, I just can't see myself in this other world if there's no music. And for me, music is an essential part, but for me, it's love. So wherever I go, I want to have that vibration resonant in me.
I love it. I love it. Pacho, get us out of here, Pachito.
Wow, wow, that was a lot of great stuff, Vern. When you talk about radiance and how you give that off and people want to connect, you have that a ton of it. You can see right now, your clients are very lucky to have you.
No, thank you.
And anyone that needs help or a little coaching or man just wants to feel good after conversation, Vern's definitely a guy you can turn to. Thank you for being on the show and thank you for everything you're doing, Vern.
Thanks, Mike and Jeff. I appreciate you having me here.
All right, listeners. Boom, baby. That just happened. We out.